Is it, how did you get hooked up with Chaz? I didn't ask him this question.
So me and Chaz always knew of each other from high school and stuff like, because our schools were like sister schools. So a weird story is my great grandmother named his high school. Like his high school was called the Sterling Knights. So my great grandma came up with that. She won a contest and named it the Sterling Knights. So they were neighbor schools, and we would always wrestle against each other and stuff like that. He wrestled a lower weight and I wrestled a higher weight. I think he wrestled like 126 and 135 or something. And I wrestled 167, 170 and stuff like that. So we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. And he came down to the school, and this was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years of me being in the business and training and stuff like that. And at that time I was the head trainer for Larry, because Larry was trying to transition from him doing, anything into the ring to more of a back office. Hey, I'm just going to be the one sitting there and you're going to do everything. So he came down, he did a tryout and everything else. And we just hit it off right off the bat. I mean, we just clicked. It was weird. It was like we were like meant to be together. It sounds weird, but it worked. I mean, and it was so funny because I told Larry that I wanted to do a tag team, stuff like that. He's like, don't do that. He goes, think about it. He goes, how many tag teams are on a card? I'm going, well, 1 or 2. He goes, you're limiting your chances of making it and being on a card, because there's only 2 matches that have a tag team. There's a whole 6 other matches on there. That's 12 people. You're down to 8. He goes, you're limiting your chances. He goes, I wouldn't do it. And there was just something in my gut as he goes, you know what? I got to try it. I've been doing singles, wrestling as a spider for all this time and stuff like that. And, I was on TV with WWF and doing jobs and stuff like that and everything else to get my foot in the door. And, but I just didn't feel like I always had like a standing invitation down to USWA with Lawler and stuff like that, because Lawler was friends with Larry, said that I could come down there, anytime I wanted to and things like that. That was another thing about Jerry. He was just so kind and so nice, even when I first started and stuff like that. Same thing with Cornette. And I never did it because I heard all the stories about Memphis and stuff like that. And I didn't want to do it by myself. I just thought that was going to be a wrestle, because I did go to Japan and wrestle for Carlos Colon, or I'm sorry, Puerto Rico, and wrestled for Carlos by myself. And it wasn't, I guess it wasn't the fault of Puerto Rico or the Federation. It was just so hard for me, over there being by myself. I knew nobody. I didn't know how to speak Spanish. I didn't know, I wasn't in any kind of clique over there or anything else like that. I was just, somebody that Larry got, he knew Carlos. Larry knew everybody. It was so funny about Larry. Anytime that you went anywhere with him, whether it was in town, out of town, it didn't matter. He knew everybody. Everybody knew who Larry Sharp was. It was weird. So, I just never wanted to do it, alone. So then when me and Chaz hooked up, he wasn't, I want to say he was in the business maybe a month before I dragged his ass up to WWF and he started doing jobs. And I'll never forget it. We're driving up there and he's so nervous. All he knows how to do is bump and run the ropes. He's like, man, he goes, I don't know about this. I really don't know. I'm not ready for this. I'm like, relax. They're never going to pick you because they don't know who you are. You got to get your face familiar. That's back in the days of, Reno Riggins and, me. And it was, Dwayne Gill and Barry Hardy and Barry Horowitz. It was like the mainstay jobbers that ran up and down the East Coast when that's what WWF did. So I'm like, don't worry about it. They're not going to pick you. Sure enough, the very first night they picked him. And he was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So yeah, it was funny. It was just one of those things that it was just right from the beginning.
I remember you on TV. You were always, like you said, I had Reno Riggins on a couple weeks ago. Great guy.
Great guy, Reno.
Great wrestler too.
Yes.
Great,
You know who he reminds me of so much when he was in the ring? it's going to be weird, is Brad Armstrong. If you ever watch
Yes.
Brad Armstrong wrestle and Reno Riggins wrestle, their styles are very, very similar, besides their hair and everything else. I always thought they were very, very underrated. And you know, so I always liked both of them guys.
I had Tom Brandy on the show, and I had Duke the Dumpster, and both of them said they had Reno Riggins for the tryout match. So he's held in high regard. So he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, 100%. It was, I don't even know when we went up there and I don't know if we had a tryout match or what we did, but it was at the time when we got signed by Vince. It was at the time where Brandy and all them guys were going up there as part-time. So Cornette was closing Smoky Mountain. And he's like, hey, listen, I'm going to try to, talk to Vince about you guys and everything else. I'm like, okay, that's great. And, he went over to Vince and he goes, I have these two guys I want you to look at, blah, blah, blah. He goes, they come up here all the time. You know who they are. They wrestle as the Spiders. And he goes, oh, Glenn and Chaz. Yeah. Just bring them up and put them on the part-time deal. So the part-time deal was sweet. All we did was TV. Everything was paid for. And we had nothing out of pocket. And we were making $500 each day of TV. So we didn't even, it was awesome. But yeah, it was something.
Any epic Jim Cornette stories, any rants? I did TV in Smoky Mountain before, and just that one time I was there, it was you just sit back and watch him the whole time.
It was, well, see, and that's the thing with Jimmy, is if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask him the goddamn question, because he's going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. A lot of people take his advice as criticism, and it's not. He's just being honest with you. If he doesn't think it's there, he's going to tell you, I don't think it's there. I'll never forget when I came back, when me and Chaz got back together again about 12 years ago. We did a show, and he was on it down in Fort Lauderdale. And I went up to him, I was 315 pounds, I just dropped all this weight and stuff like that. And I said to Jimmy, I said, do me a favor. I said, just watch us and see if, we should keep going and have something happen again, stuff like that. I didn't want to, I guess, leave the way that we left and just separate. I wanted to end it the right way. And we came back and we did a match. I forget who it was with. I came back and I said, well, he goes, boys, it was like 1995 all over again. And that's all I had to hear from him. And he was always so, Cornette, he's just, I think a lot of people, they just misunderstand him. And I don't know, I've never had a problem with Jimmy. Has he said some things that I didn't like? Of course, but he was being honest. So you fix it. If you don't, like I tell this to people now, if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask me the question. So I'm going to tell you how it is. You may not like it. Not everybody likes to hear the truth. So, I mean, Cornette came up with the Headbanger gimmick. He was, he named us. He gave us an opportunity in Smoky Mountain when we were done with, Lawler and, Ozark Mountain with Bruce, with God, Bruce Love. He just passed away too. Son of a, see, I forget everything. Burt Prentice. So we started Ozark Mountain with Burt Prentice. And so after we were done with our runs with, USWA and then Burt Prentice, and we went over to Cornette, and he was like, yeah, I don't like the Spider Hoods. I don't like them at all. He goes, so let me think of something and I'll let you know. So he calls us up and he goes, I just went to a Danzig concert.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Jim Cornette, a Danzig concert, of course. He goes, I saw these guys in dresses. They were spitting on each other. They had all these tattoos and piercings. We've always had the tattoos and piercings, and we listen to that kind of music. And he goes, I think you guys should do something like that. You guys should be called the Headbangers. Mosh and Slasher. I went, Jimmy, there's a guy in a band called Slash, right? He goes, all right, Thrasher. Mosh and Thrasher. That's your names. And I was like, all right, I want to be Mosh because it was a shorter name. So I was like, nah, that's fine. So that's how we came up with it is all through Cornette and everything. And there's a lot of people that helped us along the way and stuff like that. Cornette, Lawler, Bert, all the people that Larry, there's just tons of people that helped us on the way and stuff like that. It was really neat. We had a chance. We did a convention that I want to say like 2-3 years ago, and Lawler was there. And I always wanted to go over to him and just show him appreciation for letting us come work in his area. I mean, he didn't have to do that. Everybody was dying to get into Memphis back then. It was the place to go. And I just went over to him. I said, Jerry, I said, I know nobody has probably ever said this to you, but I appreciate everything that you did for us. And he was like taken back. He was like, you're welcome. Because nobody, I don't know. It's just a different time now. Everybody thinks that they know how to do everything, and it's just weird.